1827, this is a portion of Fort Langley up on the Fraser River in Canada. So you can see the Hudson Bay Company's getting a foothold here. Other examples of port. Then, in 1833, actually 1832, another Scot named Archibald MacDonald. Relation? Anybody here? Yeah? You MacDonalds are all kind of clannish, aren't you? Well, that's actually why it often happens. Like there were Scots in these extended clans. You know, the clan system, you know, they always wonder why the names are repeated, these Scot names. Well, because of the fact they would write to their cousins in Scotland and say, want a job? Talk to so-and-so. And that's why you get these extended families of the Scots. And why often the Scots got along with the Native Americans, because the tribal system, the clan system, had a lot of similarities. And they got along. They kind of bonded with that. 1832, Jerry, why don't you go ahead and next picture. Archibald MacDonald stepped out of a little flotilla of canoes going down the Puget Sound, and he built this building right here. This is the very first beginning of Fort Nisqually's beach store. The very first building was built down next to the Puget Sound. And what you see here is the bank. Fort Nisqually, actually we have two sites that we built at the top of the bank. And if you look right here, you see a little row of animals going up the road. That's the first road we built in the Puget Sound. This is a road that goes from the beach store to the top of the bank. Okay, Fort Nisqually. 1833 is when our journals begin. And by the time moving into the mid-1840s, this is a picture done by a guy named Warr, and he was a British intelligence officer actually, but this is actually Fort Nisqually and not the mid-1840s. Again, remember at this time, it's still part of the Oregon Territory. Okay. No fences, no palisades at this time yet. You see Native Americans here, 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 very much a part of the fabric of the life of Fort Nisqually. This is another painting done in the mid-1840s. Again, you see your Euro-Americans standing here watching Native Americans gamble. In fact, the name of the picture, half-caste Indians gambling. One thing they said about the Northwest Coast Indians is they love to gamble. Is it fine? Okay, go ahead. Okay, so by the time you moved into the mid-1840s, the complexion of the Fort Nisqually and Puget Sound, Fort Vancouver, Fort Nisqually, Fort Langley, and there's forts that ranged all the way up and down the coast. And of course, these two lines, 5440 and the 42nd parallels, Southern Oregon, Northern British Columbia, are the boundaries of this area that the British thought would be there. Well, after all, we outnumbered you Americans by more than 3 to 1. This is going to be British territory, right? Well, President Polk, was it 1844, 5440, fight? Manifest Destiny. The British cannot manage this land. Americans are nation builders. They want it. Lewis and Clark came here. Charles Wilkes came here. Settlers, I mean, they knew that this area was going to be desirable by American settlers. So in 1846, the issue would be decided. You know, the British were almost ready to give it all up to the Americans. Let them have it. Let them have it. You know, we do not want to fight a war with them. We're already paying off debts from fighting the French. Give it to the Americans. Actually, in many ways, the Hudson Bay Company said, don't do that. We're here. We're here long for the Americans. The politicians sat down, hammered out an agreement, and they just extended that 49th parallel to the Pacific that we looked at. Okay, so that's not an issue. But the British actually outnumbered the Americans more than 3 to 1. And they decided politically. Okay? And then, so we look at the complexion in the mid-1840s. The Hudson Bay Company was actually a global concern. And, you know, today we always talk about globalism. But actually, I always like to tell people globalism has been centuries old. Marco Polo went out exploring. Globalism began, you know, in search of new lands, new products. And so what you're seeing here is from England, we have products moving in, manufactured goods and nautical supplies from London. When you came from England, often you went around the tip of South America. Where was your first stop? Sandwich Islands, Hawaii. Then 3 weeks to the Northwest Coast, manufactured goods, salt, Kanakas. I'll show you Kanaka in the next slide. Sugar, molasses, tobacco, and then out will go fur, salmon, lumber to Hawaii, and then Asian markets here. Okay, Jerry? Here's your Kanaka. He worked at Fort Nisqually. One of the most notable is John Kalama. Now, erroneously, we all say Kalama today. the town of, the river of, I think there's a ferry. We talk about Camano Island, Hawaiian. We don't realize we had a very strong Hawaiian presence. And everybody goes, what do you mean Hawaiians? At Fort Nisqually, at White House I showed you, Dr. Ptolemy's house, when that house was begun, the two men who started was Robert Daly, who came from Fort Silicon. He's an Irish-American immigrant. And his assistant was John Colombo, who started that house. Okay? We had a sizable Hawaiian workforce. The man who lived in that house, this man right here, Dr. William Fraser, told me. In 1843, he would take over Fort Nisqually. He was a Scott Highlander, an amazing man. He spoke about foreign languages. You know, you read his diary in 1832, 1833, when he came to the Northwest Coast. He was barely turned 20 years old. And there's a page where he talks about, I think it was near the equator, but I think the sun was getting to him. And he was saying that he was finding himself lying in his hammock. And he was scolding himself because this indolence must cease, and I must nip it in the bud and get back to work. It's like, Dr. Ptolemy, enjoy yourself. Play some shuffleboard, go see the buffet. But you know, you got to imagine being on a wooden ship, going. And by the way, when he left England, 7 months later, his first stop was the Sandwich Islands. That ship did not stop for 7 months. Imagine being on a small little wooden ship for 7 months. And remember, he was a 20-year-old young man. There were ladies on board. We're talking ladies of his class. And he talks about seeing, today I saw the ladies. They showed themselves. You know, and he's dying to talk to them. Civilized conversation. And then he would go to Hawaii, where he spent a little bit of time. Of course, he didn't relax. You know what he did? He surfed, though. He tried surfing. True story. He tried surfing. But he botanized. He was just constantly in search of knowledge. And then the ship took off for the Northwest Coast, and he was 20 years old, and the ladies stayed at Hawaii. And he talks about it, one of the rare moments you actually begin to see into his heart. He's no longer real scientific. He says, I gotta say goodbye to the ladies, as he's heading for the Northwest Coast, 20 years old. I mean, believe me, in 1833, Washington, or what we call Washington State, was truly the ends of the earth. And that's where he was going to be spending the rest of his life. Okay. Remarkable man. Can't say enough about him. We're in the process now at Fort Nisqually trying to restore his house. It's about a $450,000 endeavor. We have half the money. Now we're still searching for the other $200,000. So hopefully, maybe in the next few years, we can get this project underway to get his house completely restored to its original condition. Every room will look like it would have done about the 1850s. Okay? His wife, Jane, worked Ptolemy, typical of the fur trade again. Irish father, he was a gentleman of the company, John Work. Mother was half Nez-Perce Indian. Again, you see these mixed blood relationships. A whole fur trade society developed. Scots, Irish, English, Hawaiians, French Canadians. You always got to have French Canadians, backbone of the fur trade, and Native Americans. Okay? Multicultural. Now, here's where you guys fit in here. I was looking down at this lake. This is the water down here. Okay. Well, this one. So here's Waiuchi. You know Waiuchi silicone, yes. This is spoot silk.
American.
Yeah, American. You Americans rename everything, don't you? Would this be right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is Spanish. Spanish. Now, the fur trade was in decline. By the time you move into the later 1830s, silk hats came into style. Men didn't want these things. Beaver were dropping off. Hard supply. These things were getting sky high. Carriage culture. You know, they had covered carriages. You know, you have trains. You know, men did not need these high-quality hats anymore. So the Hudson's Bay Company had to find another way to make money. They had to get out of the fur trade. So what they did, the only problem is you got this wonderful farm country here. But who's your market in 1840 or 1835? Who's your market? Well, Hawaii. That's a long ways to go. Actually, they found their market in the Russians up in Alaska. The Russians used to rely on the Spaniards for their provisions. In the 1820s, the Spanish ranch system collapsed. They needed another way to find provisions. In the 1830s, they approached the Hudson's Bay Company and said, we'll make a deal. You can trap up in the Alaska Panhandle if you supply us with provisions. In the late 1830s, 1838, you had the beginnings of somebody with the idea of actually turning this area to a big agricultural concern or a subsidiary of the Hudson's Bay Company. In 1839, they signed what they called the Russian contract. Huge amounts of provisions would be sent up to the Russians: salt pork, wheat, grains, oats, 8 tons of butter. In return, for the Hudson's Bay Company to trap up in the woods. In 1839, they had creation of something called the Puget Sound Agricultural Company, of which Fort Nisqually was its headquarters. Dr. Tommy was its chief executive. What you're looking at here is actually a computerized enhanced version of an 1855 map that was done showing the land claim of the Hudson's Bay Company. I realize we're blocking everybody off. It's a little hard to see, but I'm going to kind of follow. Up here is probably Tacoma Mall. You go down here, I-5, you can kind of see the I-5 corridor goes like this. Here's the black line here. There's 161,000 acres. It goes off the map. I couldn't get it all in the slide. It comes back down here. This is Yelm, Elk Plain, American Plain, Graham, Roy area down here. So Lakewood is what? You're talking, here's still, what am I looking at here? This is still American Lake. Is this ground right here?
That's where we're sitting.
Right here?
That's where we're sitting.
Right here. You're sitting right here, right now. Okay. You see all this light green country here? This is all prairie country. It gives you an idea of how much prairie country was around here. This is all prairie country. These little blocks of darker green are the little blocks of forest. So you see just how extensive that prairie country was. Right here, I know it's a little hard to see, it says Fort Nisqually. It's right there. There's Nisqually Creek. This brown are sheepfolds or farms where they grew crops. And so all over this big, expansive land, they had outstations. They had a satellite farm system, Sastuck, Muck, the Heath Farm up near Fort Steilacoom on its 161,000 acres claimed under American donation land laws. They said to the Americans, we're here first, we're going to claim it. Okay, and it was on file. Washington Territory, a guy by the name of Tilton was the surveyor general. Okay? This is Dr. Talmey's drawing in 1847 of Fort Nisqually. Here's Fort Nisqually right here. See, in 1847, it had neither walls or bastions. So you're just seeing a little block cluster of buildings, because in 1847, there was a Walla Walla massacre. Marcus Whitman in Walla Walla, Washington was massacred. What, 22 other people? 1848 is when we built our palisades and our bastions, because the entire Puget Sound region, the entire Washington Territory became very, very tense. So that's why you don't see. But what you see is the extensive farm operation. These little squares and things are stables and piggeries and fences and barns and so forth like this. Here's Nisqually Creek coming down here. If you go to the original site, here's where the garden is, by the way. Then in the creek, compared to the size of the forest, it's a huge garden. Okay? But remember, they had to eat by this thing. And then if you look back in this area and go to the original Fort Nisqually site today, there's an orchard that still exists today, and that's the oldest orchard in Washington State. Okay. And to the south of this, down just near the town of Tenino, was the other part of the operation, was the Cowlitz farm operation. And this is where they actually grew most of the crops they sent up to the Russians. Because they found out about this land around here, in that prairie country I was showing you, it was glacial till soil. And the English said, well, the grasses are terrible. There's this bunch grass. The sheep don't like it. They don't thrive on it. Let's burn it off. We'll plant fine English grass. Well, guess what happens when it stopped raining in August? Fine English grass all died. Okay, so basically they always had to move their sheep around that immense area. And that's why they had to claim so much land. So the area around Fort Nisqually actually became known as a sheep concern. It was pastoral. You go down here to Tenino and they had about 1,300 acres of very formal tillage, where they grew oats and wheat and barley. Most of this crop they go to try to satisfy that Russian contract. And this area is still very historic, and it's not been gone over very much. And hopefully one day we'll get more information about Hudson's Bay companies down there in St. Xavier's Church. You go down there, get a chance to look at it. I don't think anybody's ever looked at it, but go to that cemetery next to St. Xavier's Church.